Hello there, a very good morning and welcome to another edition of Newsline, coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Of course, your usual host, Farah Shagutali, is out for the day. I'm Sharlan Benedict and I will be sitting in for him today. As the 35th President of the United States once said, John F. Kennedy, he said, "The ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of everyone else." And that is why the general public of this country must vote wisely at this decisive election that will be coming towards the end of this year. And we here at News First have continued to provide you with credible information and host some valuable discussions that will help you make that vital decision at the end of this year. And today in our studios, we've got a person who would contribute to this vital dialogue that we are having. Let's get to know our guest for this morning, Mr. Rehan Wijeratne, the chairman of the Valigama Urban Council. A very good morning, sir, and welcome to the show.
Sharon, good morning.
Rehan, now we are still in the run-up to an election. Of course, it's quite early for a party or an alliance to announce a candidate, but the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna has put forward their candidate. You are from the United National Party. What are the discussions happening within the United National Party?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on this show. The United National Party, so basically, if you remember the time that I sent out a letter somewhere in May to the party leadership asking them to appoint Sajith Premadasa as the leader or the presidential candidate. The time that I actually mentioned this, there was not many seniors who were backing my claim.
I believe that was in May.
That was in May. There was 1 month, I think, after the Easter Sunday attack. And surprisingly, or not so surprisingly, I always had faith in our parliamentary group. And if you notice the amount of support that the deputy leader is getting right now, it's unprecedented since 1994. Since the time that the current leader, our Prime Minister, Ranil Wickremesinghe, assumed leadership in the United National Party in 1994, there has very rarely been this much of an outpour for him to give the candidate ship to someone else. And I think now that is happening and it's visible. I can tell you a few names if you ask me, but lots of our cabinet ministers have already come out. Minister Harin Fernando had a massive rally for Sajith Premadasa in Badulla. And I think everything is going well and the UMP is upbeat. And I'm sure that when the time is right to announce a candidate, I'm pretty sure that the candidate will be none other than our deputy leader.
But what's the hold-up? Is the UMP saving the decision to announce it later on? Why the hold-up?
That's a very tricky question because I'm currently suspended from my party, so I don't want to sort of dig the hole that
Rehan,
I already...
why were you suspended from your party?
Okay, so the reasons that they gave, or the General Secretary gave, was they said that I was being very critical of the leader in public. But how I saw it was that I was the chairman of my urban council.
Okay.
I was elected by the United National Party. I was appointed by my district leader, who was a United National Party minister and who still is. And I didn't see anything wrong with sending a letter to my leader. I just didn't see anything wrong. And I never slandered him. I never made any defamatory statements against him. All what I said was that the people of this country want a change in the party, and I'm conveying what the people wanted. And, you know, it just took them 2 days to suspend me. I was a bit hurt because both my granduncles were staunch UMPers. General Rehan Wijeratne, my mom's uncle, my mother's uncle, was the General Secretary of the UMP and one of the toughest defense ministers that this country has ever had. And I was being interviewed, this inquiry was done by the General Secretary, Akil Viraj Karyavasam, the reason I actually went for that disciplinary inquiry was it was not even in writing. I just went there to explain what I wanted to say, and just give me 1 second, what I wanted to say. And, you know, they suspended me within 2 days, but by suspending me, they couldn't suspend my membership of the UMP. They only could suspend the membership of the UMP. They couldn't suspend me from my position as the chairman. So the reasons that they gave was that I was being too critical of the party leadership. But I don't take any of the things I said back. You know, I'm a very straightforward guy. I've always continued to be like that. And what I said, I still stand by. And what I said, now the entire UMP parliamentary group, or in almost all...
The people are saying the same thing.
And they're saying the same thing. So I think I made the right call. And I don't regret anything that I said. I just don't.
Yesterday there was a meeting between Deputy Leader Sajith Premadasa and Ranil Wickremesinghe. Any information that you can share with us regarding that?
So what I heard was that it was a closed-door meeting. I don't know. I don't want to specify what has been spoken because that's not my part. I think that's something that the Prime Minister and the Deputy Leader should do. They should address the party leadership, the party juniors, and tell them what they exactly spoke about. But if you notice the level of the level that the Prime Minister is now in, where he is actually praising our Deputy Leader at housing functions just a few days ago,
yes,
I have a feeling that both these leaders will come into line. And in my letter, for example, Sharlan, there is no, I have never said that Ranil Wickremesinghe is a person who cannot achieve or is not capable. I just said that the time that he had to do these things were running out and we need to give it to someone new. But I'm sure the party, if it formulates a plan, I'm sure that both these leaders will be able to work hand in hand. I think that's the way it should be.
Rehan, there was a recent attempt to form an alliance, and of course the constitution of this alliance was rejected at the working committee. But what's the progress that the United National Party has made on that front?
Okay, so there were key things in that constitution, that draft constitution, I think, which parliamentarians didn't agree with. One of those things was, you know, the fact that the General Secretary was supposed to be from another party. The UMP was supposed to have...
only one representative inside the Leadership Council.
I think that was the problem we had, and that was ironed out. And I think that ministers like Partly Champika Ranawaka and other alliance members like Arjun Ranatunga are now falling in line. So I have a feeling that, you know, we are going to have a really strong alliance, and this will be the alliance that's going to end up winning the presidential election. That's my honest opinion.
So we saw names of certain other candidates within the United National Party also being mentioned, but they have come out and pledged their support to Sajith Premadasa recently. Is this more indication that he will be named as the candidate? Because we saw that even when it came to the candidacy of Gotabaya Rajapaksa, before the announcement, there was quite a lot of contention. There were so many names that were thrown into the basket, but at the end of the day, it was the obvious choice that was made in the end.
You know, Sharlan, when people actually talk about this whole Gotabaya Rajapaksa thing being a surprise, it was actually not a surprise. I mean, come on. That was the guy that they were going to nominate. That was the person that was in everyone's mind. And the former president went ahead and nominated him as the presidential candidate. Kudos to him. Wishing him all the best for his election campaign. But there is a particular reason as to why I think that we have not yet nominated our candidate. It's also because of the fact that the President, His Excellency the President, has asked for a determination from the Supreme Court regarding the provincial councils. So I think, in my personal opinion, that if we do nominate that, just the Pohottua themselves nominating Gotabaya Rajapaksa right now, I have a feeling that if it does go to a provincial election, the candidate is going to lose a lot of steam.
Right.
You know, because if you remember correctly, Maithripala Sirisena, our current president, was nominated just a few days before the election.
Just about 3 to 4 weeks.
Exactly, and that was just maybe and that was a surprise. No one actually knew that it was...
that was a real surprise.
That was a real surprise. This was not a real surprise. And I'm sure that, I mean, the thing, Sharlan, is a lot of people don't know Sajith Premadasa the way that some of our party members do. I can tell you that this man has a very strict work ethic. I can tell you that he sleeps at 3 a.m. and I can tell you he's up by 5 a.m. doing his normal number. And he's a very, 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 very active minister, which is why the Prime Minister, he praises on him because of the fact that he's an active minister. And I think that's the sort of worker that we need. I think that's the sort of leader that this country needs. And also the fact that Sajith Premadasa, our deputy leader in Badulla the other day, he used a very famous Singapore model, which is the MPH model, where he spoke about meritocracy, he spoke about pragmatism, and he spoke about honesty. Right. And this leader has all of this combined. And I think this is the way forward. I think this is the way as a country that we can move forward and we can place our trust in this guy.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna has identified national security as one of the key issues of discussion, key issues of their policy formulation when it comes to the upcoming presidential election. Sajith Premadasa too has policy formulations and all that. What is the key focus of his policies?
The fact that he still hasn't given us his election manifesto because we haven't named him as a presidential candidate yet. But there are a few things which I think that he is going to do.
He made a few things clear at the Badul rally, no doubt.
Exactly. And out of all those things, if you look at that whole MPH model I spoke to you about, it's not about the Singapore model, it's not about the Malaysian model, forget all these models, but that particular MPH model that they used in Singapore is what's going to, it's a very simple method. It's all about, you know, honesty, and it's also about the fact that I believe that our future presidential candidate, Mr. Sajith Premadasa, I have a feeling that he is going to give ministries on performance-based factors.
Right.
I have a feeling that he's going to run real hard against corruption, where he's going to make a few people examples of, you know, how things should not be done. I have a feeling that he's going to do all these things.
That was one of the ways that really paved the way for Singapore to be where they are today.
Yes, exactly.
Because about 70 years ago, Singapore was dreaming of being another Sri Lanka. And I can remember one eminent Singaporean MP, when asked what is the secret to success of Singapore, he said that when a minister once went abroad on a foreign-funded program, funded by a foreign individual, as he came back to Singapore, he was arrested, remanded, and then sentenced to jail. This was the example. Everybody else just followed suit.
But there's one other thing you missed in that. The MP that got arrested was one of Lee Kuan Yew's best friends.
Right.
So this was one of his really good friends that he arrested. And that itself showed an example of exemplary leadership, where it doesn't matter whether it's his mother, brother, sister, grandmother. If you do something wrong, you got to pay the price. And that's what works in Singapore, and I'm pretty sure that's what Sajith Premadasa is going to implement in Sri Lanka. I can guarantee you that that's what he's going to do if he wins.
Now, of course, a presidential candidate is only as good as the team that surrounds him. We see Gotabaya Rajapaksa coming together with Pohottua. What are the parties and what sort of people does Sajith Premadasa plan on surrounding himself with?
Okay, so if you talk about Gotabaya Rajapaksa aligning himself with the Pohottua, personally, how I see it is that that's not the way it should have been. Because a lot of people, even though they have faith in the former president or the defense secretary, they don't have a lot of faith in some of the guys that are involved in the Pohottua scenario, right? You get the ethanol dealers to the drug dealers to everything you get in that party. I'm not saying the UMP doesn't have it, but what I'm saying is if you look at comparatively, you could say that if you look at the ratios, you can say that the Pohottua has much far worse off guys than what we have in the UMP. But the fact that me being a youngster, I laid down my whole career because I believed in Sajith Premadasa. And there are lots of us that believe in Sajith Premadasa. There are lots of us that believe in the United National Party. Because the United National Party, if you agree with me or not, Sharlan, you would realize we are the only pro-liberal, pro-capitalist, far-right-leaning parties there are in this country. Or we could be compared to the Conservatives in England or the Republicans in the US. And I think there's a lot of democracy. But what needs to be done is, like how Rehan Wijeratne says, is we need democracy within our own party. If we cannot solidify democracy within our party, how can we go out to the world and talk about democracy? So I think the leader also has now, I think to a certain level, understood that. I think this combination, like I told you before, could be a perfect combination. And also, I think, in my view, that Sajith Premadasa, like I said many times during this interview, I can only see him work. And that is the only future that I can see for him, unless he himself comes into that position and forgets what actually landed him to power, which I don't think will happen. And Sharlan, you got to think about politics in Sri Lanka in general, and the fact that usually if a political offspring takes up political office somewhere, they usually do it where their late fathers or their late uncles, which is what I did in Veligama, you know, shoot me, but that's what I did. But Sajith Premadasa, he actually went to Hambantota, which is nowhere to where his father was. His father was in central Colombo.
Right.
And he managed to top the list from 2001. So doesn't that say something? Doesn't the fact that he has been winning elections continuously talk volumes about the man? And that's something that our own parliamentarians are not focusing on, but I urge the UMP parliamentarians, when you're going in front of a stage, counter everything which is being thrown at Sajith Premadasa. People talk about his O-levels and A-levels. You know, can you blame him for doing his O-levels and A-levels in England? I mean, does Bill Gates have to come and do his SATs in Sri Lanka for him to be recognized? Does someone in England have to come and do their O-levels in Sri Lanka for it to be recognized? They did something equivalent to our O-levels. But people in our own party, people who are utter crooks, I mean, who are, I may fall into trouble for this, but who pilfer public money, who ruin each and every ministry that they ever go to, that they ever set foot in. They talk in Sinhala saying, "Ne, ape Sajith Amatumata O-level ne, Lankawe O-level ne." Okay, fine. He has his London O-levels. But why is it that we don't counter this? Why is it that our UMP parliamentarians don't counter this? Because I, for once, have seen all of his certificates. He studied at Millfield. He did his lower sixth. He did his upper sixth. He went to LSE. He couldn't complete. I mean, we should count all these things so that when we get into the stage, we know how to promote our future candidate, which some of our guys are not doing properly. And there has to be unity within our party. If there is no unity, this whole thing is going to fail abruptly. It's just going to fail then and there. So we need to make sure that people who are assuming good cabinet portfolios should talk the truth to the people and not just serve their own self-interest and try to reduce certain jail time that they might probably get in the future for things that they would have done wrong. We just need to be a united party.
True. So, speaking about the unity within the party, of course, the unity was seen in Badulla when certain parliamentarians also got onto the stage of Sajith Premadasa. That was organized by Harin Fernando. How is the youth of the party? There's a lot of talk about youth at this upcoming election and how the youth will be a determining factor. We've seen a lot of young MPs from the Port to come forward and really spearhead the campaign. And we see young politicians like you also spearheading the campaign for Sajith Premadasa. How is the unity among the young parliamentarians and politicians inside the United National Party?
I think it's improving. I think it's getting much better. I think we have a solid bunch of morally upright United National Party parliamentarians to local government MPs. I think we have that going on well at the moment. And I also think the fact that Sajith Premadasa is a 52-year-old future leader. I think that also adds a lot of confidence into the youngsters because they will finally believe that a man under 60 can end up becoming the president of this country. And I think that itself speaks volumes. The fact that a 52-year-old is at the helm of his political career, who has done absolutely well throughout his career, the fact that he is in this position obviously gives the youth a good voice. And we are going to carry that out. I, for one, am going to be working very closely with this campaign, and I'm sure that lots of other parliamentarians and lots of other urban council members and chairmen also will. And we are just going to get the youth to rally around us because we are going to talk about points that actually strike a chord within them and not things that we would be talking to their parents. We need to strike a certain chord within the youth of the country to make them believe that this culture, culture of violence and this culture of impunity and this culture of corruption will one day, and we need to make them understand. If not, we are going to have a further brain drain where the best of our country is going to go overseas. Like I know so many of my friends, they just migrated because they don't see good in this country. They don't see a future for this country. But I do, and so many of the youth in Waligama also do. And I'm pretty sure that once his campaign kickstarts, I'm pretty sure that the youth all around the country will rally behind the United National Party candidate.
So, speaking of the other issues, the economic issues in the country, of course, Sajith Premadasa is for a socialist and a capitalist kind of model. Do you believe that that is ideal for Sri Lanka?
You know, it's very difficult to say what he will actually implement and the certainty of what he will implement until someone gets elected. And we have learned that lesson throughout having presidents, whether it be the current president, whether it be the former president, predecessor before that, there have been times where we have voted for something which we have not got.
And got something completely different.
Got something completely different. So I don't want to give an opinion about things that he might do when he's president, but I can tell you the chances of him doing what he says, the chances of him actually implementing the policies that his late father had is very much there, because his work ethic, to his demeanor, to the way that he is with ordinary people. I mean, if you notice the clothes that he wears that one suit, which he probably has a lot of, he wears it every single day. He doesn't believe, he's not a very fashionable person. He doesn't, even though he studied at LSE, he's not someone who thinks that I need to be fashionably good looking for me to get votes. He believes in working. So I think he'll implement a lot of his father's policies. He'll also look at the things that his late father would have got wrong, and he might try to troubleshoot them and make them better models of what he will implement. But overall, I just think that he will do what he says, and he will implement the things that he says he will implement.
Speaking a bit about the candidate from the other party, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Sarath Fonseca, Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca has come out and said that Gotabaya is the right pick from that party. Do you believe the same?
Okay, so this is the thing, right? I have a very different way of politics and the way I speak and the way I act after I became a politician. One of those things is that I try to be as honest as I can be, and I don't try and be complacent, and I don't try and be sly, or in Sinhala kapati, or what they call, even when we wear these things, they call it the kapati suit nowadays. You know, I try to be different. I try to. So my opinion is that General Sarath Fonseca has said a lot of things about Gotabaya Rajapaksa in the past. And I don't know why he is promoting Gotabaya Rajapaksa to a certain extent. But I won't say anything at the moment, because he's a field marshal and he's a minister of my party. But at the same time, this promotion of other candidates needs to stop within this party. It needs to die down. I mean, if you look at another cabinet minister, someone in charge of, how do I give you an example, someone in charge of lights. So that minister comes on TV a few days ago and says, yeah, Gotabaya is not bad. But during our election, when we ousted the Rajapaksas in 2015, our main point of contention was that we were attacking the Rajapaksas. So now we go a back foot just because some people don't like the candidate that we are putting forward from our party.
Based on personal reasons.
Exactly. What I'm saying is the candidate of the UMP, or who it should be, should not be any sort of basis for our ministers to put down our own candidates and, give and shower heaps of praise upon the candidate from the SLP. SLPP, we don't need to do that. They already have their party. They have 50-odd MPs. So let them, heap praises on their candidates. But why is it that our own ministers are heaping praises? Because of personal benefit again. And that needs to end. And I'm sure that once this party gets united this time, I'm pretty sure that all these things will change. And I think these personal agendas need to stop.
So, of course, the official campaign trail of Sajith Premadasa has not begun, but there are many massive rallies being organized across the country in support of him.
23rd in Mathura, we're bringing in a big crowd. So the last was in Badulla.
Yes.
I'm sad that the first wasn't in Mathura, because even in my little capacity as a chairman of a tiny urban council, I did what's right by my party. But in that way, I'm very happy that my good friend and someone that I respect and someone that I look up to like a brother, I'm glad that Harin did what he did. And I'm pretty sure that he will also get actively involved in the rallies that we're having in Mathura. So we will have subsequent rallies like that. And the last big one should be in Golface. So that's going to be a
announcement of the official candidate.
I think that's where it's going to be.
Okay.
And I think the Golface is going to have a crowd that has never before been seen in Sri Lankan politics, where the crowds are not going to come for the butt packets and the bottles. They are going to come because they are Kapuat Kola. And I can tell you that these UMPers, the elephants are waiting to march forward this time with their presidential candidate.
Of course, Rehan, they are waiting to march, like you said. But again, speaking a bit about some of the reasons as to why Sajith Premadasa should be named as the UNP candidate. Just a short wrap up. You said he had a good work ethic. You say he has good policies. But what more?
The fact that he lacks duplicity. He is very forthright in whatever he does or whatever he says. He has never ever been charged for any sort of corruption throughout his career. He has never ever been charged with any sort of violence during an election. He has not been charged with, you know, with anything for that matter when it comes to the law. He has always been an upright, straight, right politician. And what you see is what you get. And the fact that he does not have any corruption charges throughout his 20-year journey in politics, the fact that he is Rana Singha's Premadasa's son and that he could have been corrupt, and the fact that he's not, speaks volumes. The fact that the Prime Minister of this country says that he's Duppatage Hitavata, or he's the common man's friend. The fact that youngsters like me are laying down our careers on the line for this man should speak volumes. And I hope that during an election campaign, it will speak volumes.
Do you believe it's the lack of all of these negative factors in the life of Sajith Premadasa that certain politicians are raising trivial matters like not being qualified of a specific examination here in Sri Lanka?
No, I mean, that's done out of spite, no? I mean, I'm pretty sure the minister who's bringing up these O-level issues very well know that Sajith Premadasa did his O-levels in England. But why does he mention Lanka O-level or he doesn't have his Sri Lankan O-level? Because he doesn't. So he's trying to strike a chord of disdain among normal voters, thinking that Sajith Premadasa does not have his O-levels, and that's rubbish. And I'm actually looking forward to the day where I can have my spot in talking at these rallies. I'm especially waiting for my speech in Matara, where I will make it clear as to why these baseless accusations should remain in the dustbin and not anywhere else. We shouldn't even be talking about these things because this man is qualified and he knows it. I know it.
The people know it.
The people know it, and the people will know it, and our party knows it. And some people who know these things in our party are the people who are trying to
bend the truth.
Bend the truth, because they know that the levels of corruption that Sajith Premadasa will tolerate will be zero when he becomes the president of this country. And that scares people. That probably scares the living daylights out of people, you know.
Rehan, we're in the final few minutes of our show. This is, of course, a crossroads in the history of Sri Lanka. This election will be remembered. This election will determine the future course of this pearl of the Indian Ocean. Any ideas that you want to leave with our viewers today on how they should select the proper candidate, the proper course of action for Sri Lanka?
I mean, at a presidential election, to all the voters that are going to vote, don't vote just because of one single character. Vote because of a party that man is going to represent. And the United National Party, believe it or not, consists of good people. There would have been the rotten apples that you get, like you get in any institution. But we as a party, we are strong and we will deliver. And all that we are asking you to do is to place your trust in the right person and allow us as a party to steer him and guide him through any storm that he may face. And, you know, give him all the solutions that we as youngsters see. So vote smart, vote right, and vote with your mind and not your heart.
Thank you very much, Rehan Wijeratne. That assurance comes to you from the chairman of the Valigham Urban Council. Thank you very much for joining us on our show this morning. And that's a wrap of Newsline from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Until we meet next time, take care and God bless.